remind you, the affirmative and negative team, don't forget to obey the rules. Now, I call the first speaker of affirmative team to deliver your statement. Time is yours.
Thank you for the time and chance to me. So, our today's motion is this House supports the school reopening. Now, we are going to specify it only in the green zones in Indonesia. First of all, let me define this motion. Reopening. Reopening is the present participle of reopen. Based on Collins Dictionary, reopen means to open again or to begin again. So it means school reopening means to open again educational facilities or schools. Green zones. Green zones in the case of COVID-19 needs. These are areas with 0 confirmed cases or no confirmed cases in the last 21 days. Today we are going to discuss it from a psychological and economical point of view. There are several green zones in Indonesia. For example, in North Sumatra, there is West, North, and South Nias. In North Maluku, there is Talia Buaya. In Maluku, there is the eastern part of Serang. In Papua, there is Yahukimo, Meberamudaya, and Dodiai. And these areas are optimal territories for implementing the school of reopening program because of their low COVID status. So there are several reasons why we believe that we should do the school reopening in green zones in Indonesia. First of all, because of the limitations of technology. In this case, we should take into consideration that there are unstable internet connections and server crashes. It is known that Indonesia has a wide range of geographical situations, and which means that not every area in Indonesia has stable internet connection and may suffer from server crashes. The effects of these server crashes are that they could cut class participants from their classes, so it will disturb the teaching process. Second of all, there is the equity and accessibility to technology. The lack of access to technology, whether it's by economical or logistical reasons, will exclude students. And this is a big issue for those who are in the outback and lower socioeconomic regions, in which it could include Taliabu Island, Yukihimo, Mambarangai, and Dodiai. Third of all, e-learning or online learning can cause social isolation. This method causes students to suffer from the lack of interaction, remoteness, and undergoing contemplation. As a result, the students have a big load of emotional impact to them, and they can also lead to several mental issues, and it's just as heightened stress.
Please.
Yes, please.
So if we talk about mental health, it doesn't mean you have to take a risky steps, such as reopen the school, because even in the green zone, like it's Tenggara or such as Papua or East Maluku, they can turn into a red zone.
Okay, thank you for your question. So, by doing the school reopening, it means that we could increase the effects of psychological needs that I just stated before, and by helping them to have better mental health. So let me continue my statement. Based on Swat.com on the 14th of October 2020, there was a survey that was done by the Association of Clinical Psychologists, or GPA, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Indriya Elgamayanti, Master of Science, stated based on 9.1%. Anxiety disorders based on 8.8%. And psychosomatic complaints by 4.7%. This shouldn't be taken lightly. This shouldn't be taken lightly because the mental health and for the sake of students, we should undergo some drastic measures for them to have better mental health. And in addition to all that, with COVID-19 pandemic, the school learning process will be shortened. As a result, teachers are forced to compress the learning material. With compressing the learning material, it also means that it could also mean that this method is not inefficient. It's inefficient because teachers are forcing children and students to understand certain subjects that are heavy for them. That are needs for understanding.
Please.
Yes.
If we reopen the schools, how effective is this? Do you have any proof meanwhile? There are a lot of areas that have difficulties in infrastructure and transportation.
Okay, thank you for your question. Based on what I said before, the green zones in Indonesia are and by means necessary needs to be understood and for us to understand the situations. And about the lack of transportation and infrastructure that you mentioned in your question. The government, or we, believe that the government could undergo such means by providing them the lanes of transportation and for them to have easier access for them to go to school. So once again, I would like to state that we strongly believe with this motion and by the means of for us to understand and to provide better mental health for those students, especially in the green zone areas of Indonesia, which they also have the needs for better education. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the speaker. Let's continue to the first speaker of negative team. Time is yours.
Thank you for the time. First of all, I would like to define some important things in our motion. So, according to Amin Subandrio, as a director of Engagement Institute, we get a definition of joining school in this pandemic period, which is a learning process that is implemented directly where there is another direct interaction or meeting between teachers and students at schools. And green zone, stated on Kumaran.com, is region that have no confirmed cases. From here, we can know that if we reopen the schools, students and teachers automatically carry out regular classes. But is it effective in this time of the pandemic? If we guarantee that there is no transmission of the virus by means of health protocols, will this be carried out properly and correctly by all schools in Indonesia? While data from the Ministry of Education and Culture shows that the number of elementary schools in Indonesia is 148,244. Then, for junior high school, there are 38,960, as well as senior high school, there are 13,455, and vocational high school, there are 13,710. Can you guarantee that thousands of schools in Indonesia can implement health protocols correctly? This is definitely even in a green zone, because children are very vulnerable to contracting the coronavirus, and they have not been allowed to be vaccinated. Based on the data from Ministry of Health, 831 children in Indonesia are positive for COVID-19, which is 4% of the total number of positive people in Indonesia. No, thank you. Meanwhile, the age of infected children ranges from 0 to 14 years. No, thank you. From this data, there are 129 children, no, thank you, who died with the patient's status under supervision, and 14 children. Yes, please.
Okay, so it is true that we cannot guarantee if we reopen the school, there will be no cases. But you must also consider that if at this rate, if we continue if we continue this like this way, like online learning, so what is your solution to this problem? Okay, so if at this rate there will be so many negative impacts with the online learning, so what is your solution to this problem?
You will find the patient in the last. So I will continue. Reported from Compass.com, April 28, 2021, a list of green zone areas, namely North Nias, South Nias, West Nias, Taliabu Island, Arfak Mountains, Yarukimo, Papua, Membramo, Papua, and Seram, East Maluku, is the green zone. But green areas in between have difficulties on transportation, such as in Yarukimo, Papua. For example, in Tama village, is flanked by mountains and can be reached from schools such as Infras Mamerek Elementary School, Tama Junior High School, for about 3 hours by using a car, and walking for about 10 hours. Once again, 10 hours. Can you imagine? They have so many difficulties on transportation and infrastructure. From these cases, do you still agree with this motion? And on April 27, 2021, no, thank you, the corona red zone has reached, and the largest contributor to the corona red zone comes from Sumatra Island, especially, no, thank you, in Rio province, which now has 4 regions with the status of the corona red zone. Yes, please.
Okay, so once again, I will re-clarify my question before. So, if you do not agree about the schools should not be reopened, so what is your solution to this problem? How can we undergo schools at this rate?
So we provide a solution, especially for internet. For those who have problem in internet connection, we can use task share. So where tasks were taken and given in turn without having to meet in person. So I will continue. One of them is by carrying out the regular classes areas linked to the red zone, such as Aceh, North Sumatra, DKI Jakarta, West Java, and East Nusa Tenggara. This is stated by the leader of the task force for the acceleration of COVID-19 handling, Biku Adi Sasmito. And once again, I would like to restate that we strongly disagree with this motion because even in the green areas, they have difficulties such as in Yarukimo, Papua. Such as in Yarukimo, Papua, there have difficulties in transportation and infrastructure. We have to reconsider again about this motion. We have to reconsider about reopening the schools, and also thousands of schools in Indonesia cannot provide the facilities, the good facilities for the health protocols, and schools, not all of the schools in Indonesia can carry out regular classes and properly implemented health protocols. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And now let's continue to the second speaker of alternative team. Time is yours.
Okay, so I will support my first speaker arguments and will provide some data about the reopening school. But before that, I would like to rebut your statement before that when I asked you a question, your solution is use some kind of application that use some kind of task with limited time. But I think that your information is not sufficient. But why only that? Why your information is only that? But meanwhile, there are still many things that can be found. So, first of all, I would like to state that we totally agree to this motion about the reopening schools, because according to our research, Minister of Education and Culture, Nadine Angari, plans to start in-person learning at schools and campus in the new academic year of July 2021. He explained that the plan is expected to be realized considering the currently teachers and lecturers are starting to be injected with the COVID-19 vaccination. So, furthermore than that, the Ministry of Education and Culture, together with the COVID-19 National Task Force and a number of related ministries, announced that schools in the green zones can now conduct in-person learnings in schools. Responding to the concerns of various parties regarding the risk of COVID-19 transmissions in the school environment, the Secretary General of Ministry of Education and Culture, Ainul Naim, reiterated that the opening of in-person learning schools in the green and yellow zones must go through strict health protocols. So, strict health protocols based from kesehatan.kontan.go.id is wearing a mask, wash your hands with soaps and water, keep the distance minimum 1.5 meters, stay away from the crowd, as well limiting mobilization and interaction. In addition, if we don't reopen the schools at this rate, it will bring many negative impacts for online schooling. So, the first one is online learning is considered less effective and efficient, and learning through the online requires students to understand the materials, concepts that are presented and conveyed through the videos, PowerPoints, and online classes. Skills in use of the technology. There are still many teachers and students who are troubled and who are confusing, experiencing in using learning media such as Zoom, Google Classroom, Google Meet, and so on. And the third one, technological development that can trigger cybercrime in online education, or learning platforms. The fourth one, the emergence of pressure and the stress experienced by the students. This pressure and stress is triggered by the boredom because the learning method is monotonous. On the other hand, there is also fear of each individual about the COVID-19 pandemic. So from the yes.
Okay. So about the reopening school on green zone, are you sure there will no COVID-19 cases there? And what's the reason? Meanwhile, health protocols and vaccine not protect us 100%. Remember, COVID-19 virus also spread through the air. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
So, are you sure there will no COVID-19 cases there, and what's the reason? Meanwhile, health protocol and vaccine not protect us 100%. And remember, COVID-19 virus also spread through the air.
can be lowered, because if we follow the health protocol very diligently, surely we are not infected by the COVID-19. So let me continue my argument. So from the 4 points that I said, it can also lead to some cases that I found from from Suara.com, that students commit suicide because of studying online, and teachers are asked to redo school assignment from Indonesia. And this was conveyed by the Federation of Indonesia's Teachers Unions, responding to the case of students hanging themselves. Yes, please.
So you mentioned that the negative impact of online learning is cybercrime.
Yes.
And one of them is also cyberbullying. What about bullying cases that happen in regular classes? Do you have any response to that?
So, about the bullying in regular or in-person learning, yes, it is true that bullying is surely happen at the most of school, but that's why the teachers or the security is in here, because their task is to lead students or protect students itself. So thank you. So that is my response. So let me continue. The fifth one is inequality of access in various regions, which often makes it difficult for students in certain areas to access networks. From this point, it can also lead to the economic conditions of students, such as, for example, smartphone nowadays cost 3 million rupiah, and the laptop, the cheapest one, costs more than 5 million rupiah. Can you imagine? No, thank you. We also have to consider our parents or guardians' budget. We shouldn't increase the amount of their expenditure. Yes, please.
So what's your answer? How can you guarantee that teachers can control all of the students in the schools? Meanwhile, there are hundreds, even thousands of students in one school.
Thank you for your question. So, even there are more hundreds or thousands of students, there are still many ways to overcome the bullying problem, such as the governments or the police. So let me continue. So this data was according to the Ministry of Education itself, that if online learning is held too long, it will bring many negative impacts. So to sum it up, we absolutely agree that schools must be reopened, because if we keep on doing the daring method, it will bring many negative effects, such as online learning is considered less efficient and effective. There are still many teachers and students who can understand the using the technology and technological development that can trigger cybercrime and inequality of access in various regions. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you for the second speaker. After Martin. And now let's move to the second speaker of negative claim. Time is yours.
From our first speaker statement before, we obtained very strong data and main reasons, but before that, we want to revamp the statement from the second speaker from Amendment 15. You state that there are government and police that can handle the bullying, but this is not about the government solution, but this is about the school. That's all. So, before that, once again, our team strongly disagree if school reopen, because based on the data from the Minister of Health of Republic Indonesia, on CNN Indonesia on Tuesday 27 of April 2021, the COVID-19 virus has killed more than 45,000 people in Indonesia. Meanwhile, more than 800,000 people have tested negative.